So, think about this. Every night, for maybe 2 hours or so, we go on these journeys. Really vivid places inside our heads. Our brains are buzzing, almost like when we're awake. Sights, sounds, feelings, really strong stuff.
Yeah, it's powerful, and it feels so real at the time.
Right. But our bodies are just lying there.
Yeah.
Completely still, disconnected. It's dreaming, obviously.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Exactly. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're exploring this amazing world of our nighttime adventures.
What gets me is that everyone does it, right? It's universal.
Yeah.
But we still don't fully get what dreams are or why we have them. It's still a pretty big mystery.
Right.
So for this deep dive, we've pulled together a whole range of perspectives. We've got the science, brain activity during sleep. Then there's philosophy, these age-old questions about what's real.
Right.
And also spiritual views from different traditions like Tibetan Buddhism, Aboriginal Dreamtime. Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's a real mix. So our goal today is basically to sift through all that, pull out the key ideas. What can dreams actually tell us about how our minds work? What do they maybe suggest about, reality itself?
And that really intriguing question. Could these intense, sometimes really bizarre dream worlds, could they be glimpses of something else? Like alternate ways of being?
Alternate lives, almost. It's a big thought.
It is. So maybe let's start with the science. What's neuroscience telling us about what the brain's actually doing when we dream?
Okay, yeah. So the science points mostly to REM sleep,
Yeah.
rapid eye movement sleep. That's where the really vivid story-like dreams tend to happen.
Right.
And it's this really weird state because even though you're totally relaxed, out cold, basically, your brain waves, they look surprisingly similar to when you're wide awake.
It's highly active.
Super active. It's like the brain flips an on switch for experiences, but the body's offline. Different brain chemistry, too, apparently.
And specific areas light up, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Areas involved in emotion and memory. The limbic system, sort of the emotional hub, they go into overdrive. But the prefrontal cortex, the part that handles logic, planning, self-control, that takes a bit of a nap.
Ah, okay. So less rational control, more emotion and memory churning away.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that imbalance is probably key to why dreams can be so weird and emotionally charged. Right.
Makes sense. And the actual content of dreams, it's not just random static, is it? There seems to be a real link to our waking lives.
Definitely. Research shows it pretty clearly. Like people who unfortunately lose the ability to recognize faces when they're awake.
Prosopagnosia.
Right, that. They often stop seeing faces in their dreams too.
Wow.
And kids' dreams often really closely match what they're going through developmentally. Their worries, their interests at that stage.
So it really shows how much our daily stuff gets woven into our dreams. It's not totally separate.
No, not at all. And maybe it's more than just reflecting things. There's this whole idea about memory consolidation, isn't there?
Yes, that's a big theory, that dreaming helps process and store memories.
It's almost like the brain's hitting replay on the day's events, maybe running simulations, trying things out offline.
That's a major area of research right now, and related to that is this phenomenon of lucid dreaming.
Yeah. Being aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming.
Exactly. And brain scans of people doing that show some distinct patterns, like more high-frequency gamma wave activity, especially in parts of the parietal and occipital lobes, kind of towards the back and side.
Gamma waves. Aren't those linked to higher awareness, like putting information together?
That's the idea. It suggests lucid dreaming involves a really focused kind of mental state.
It's like suddenly realizing you're in a movie. And some lucid dreamers can even control the dream, right? Change the plot.
Sometimes, yeah. Which has people thinking about using it for creativity, maybe even therapy. Problem solving in your sleep.
Cool idea. But the neuroscientists are quick to point out, even when you're not lucid, dreaming is still a real state of consciousness, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just random neurons firing chaotically. The brain is actively constructing these experiences, these narratives.
So even with our bodies still, our brains are building realities. It suggests, consciousness isn't just about reacting to the outside world.
Precisely. Which brings us smack bang into the big question why. Why do we dream at all? What's the function?
Right. There are a few big theories kicking around. One that always grabs me is the threat simulation theory.
Ah, yes. The idea that dreams are like a mental fire drill.
Kind of. The idea is they evolved as this virtual reality training ground. You practice dealing with dangers, getting chased, falling, whatever, without any real risk.
And is there evidence for that?
Well, some. Like we mentioned earlier, kids who've gone through traumatic events,
Yeah.
they often have more nightmares, so maybe their brains are trying to process or rehearse dealing with threats.
Interesting link. What else?
Then there's the continuity hypothesis.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit less dramatic, maybe.
It's more about the direct connection between waking life and dreams.
Yeah. It basically says dreams mostly just reflect who we see, where we go, what we worry about during the day.
So familiar people, familiar places, everyday concerns, not necessarily deep hidden witches like Freud suggested.
Right. Studies often find dream content is pretty mundane, actually. Lots of everyday stuff.
So threat simulation or just continuity?
Well, maybe it's not strictly either. An integrative view seems possible, too.
Like dreams do both.
Yeah, maybe they did definitely pull from recent memories. That's the continuity bit. But then the brain gets creative. It remixes those memories. Maybe it does play out potential threats sometimes, or tries to solve problems using that weird dream logic.
Like a nightly DJ, mixing tracks from the day but adding new beats.
Huh. Yeah, exactly like that. Taking memories, worries, chats, and just remixing them, sometimes creating something totally unexpected. Potential futures, maybe. Different angles on things. And that fluid remixing quality, it leads to something else fascinating. The idea of the self in dreams. It's not always stable, is it? No. Sometimes you're you, but then suddenly you're watching yourself, or you're someone else entirely in the dream.
Right. Experiencing it through their eyes.
Yeah. It's like we're not always the main character, or at least not the same main character throughout the dream.
Which connects to psychological ideas, doesn't it? Like Jung's archetypes or these more modern theories about sub-selves.
Sub-selves? Like parts of our personality.
Kind of. The idea that our mind isn't just one unified thing, but maybe a collection of different parts, different perspectives or tendencies, all interacting.
Okay.
And in a dream, maybe these different aspects, the planner, the adventurer, the critic, whatever, get to take the stage as actual characters.
So you get to explore different sides of yourself by literally being them in the dream.
Possibly. Or are they glimpses of parallel selves? Or is it just the brain being clever?
What's the neuroscience take on that? How does the brain simulate being someone else?
Well, a strong explanation is that the brain is drawing on its huge library of memories, knowledge, social schemas, everything it knows about people and situations. So when you become someone else in a dream, or see things from their viewpoint, it's likely the brain using all that stored information to simulate that perspective really convincingly.
Simulating other minds based on what it already knows. Clever.
Very. And the impact of dreams. It isn't just internal, is it? Some dreams have literally changed the world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. History's full of stories. Otto Lowy, right? He apparently dreamed the experiment that proved nerves transmit signals chemically.
Woke up, scribbled it down, couldn't read his writing, then dreamed it again the next night.
Amazing. And Kekulé, the chemist, his dream of a snake biting its own tail.
Led to the structure of the benzene ring, a huge breakthrough.
And Mendeleev, seeing the periodic table laid out in a dream.
These weren't just fuzzy ideas, they were vivid, almost tangible experiences in the dream that led directly to major discoveries.
It really shows the power simmering away in our dreaming minds. Maybe untapped power.
It does.
Yeah.
Which circles back to a question you touched on. If dreams replay memories, why are so many dreams completely new? Unfamiliar scenarios, strange combinations.
Yeah, where does the novelty come from?
Could it be that dreaming isn't just replaying, but actively integrating, taking old stuff, new stuff, and synthesizing something entirely original?
Food for thought, definitely. Okay, so we've looked at the brain. Let's shift gears. What about philosophy? How have philosophers grappled with dreams over the centuries? It seems like fertile ground for them.
Oh, absolutely. For millennia, really. Ancient thinkers, Greece, China, they saw dreams as deeply enigmatic. Mysterious messages, maybe?
And that famous story, Zhuangzi.
Zhuangzi's butterfly dream, yes. A classic. He dreams he's a butterfly just fluttering around, totally happy, no idea he's Zhuangzi. Then he wakes up, and he's suddenly Zhuangzi again. But he's left wondering, am I Zhuangzi who just dreamed I was a butterfly? Or am I actually a butterfly right now dreaming I'm Zhuangzi?
Whoa. Yeah, that really messes with your head. What's real? Who am I?
Exactly. It perfectly captures that blurriness between dream and reality and the slipperiness of identity.
And Descartes used dreams too, didn't he? For his skepticism.
Famously so. He pointed out how incredibly vivid dreams can be. They can feel exactly like waking life, all the sights, sounds, feelings.
Yeah.
So he asks, how can you be 100% certain that what you're experiencing right now isn't just a very convincing dream?
That's unsettling.
It is. But that deep doubt pushed him towards his cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Thinking itself was the one thing he felt he couldn't doubt. But yeah, dreams were key to his questioning the reliability of our senses.
Cast a long shadow, that idea.
It did, and modern philosophy of mind kind of builds on that. The standard view now is that dreams are essentially a type of hallucination.
Hallucination. That sounds a bit negative.
Well, they don't mean it in a clinical something's wrong way, or in a technical sense. Dreams involve perception-like experiences, seeing, hearing, feeling, but without the actual external objects causing them.
Oh, okay. The input is internal, generated by the brain itself.
Precisely. Just like Descartes said, I seem to see light, hear noise, feel heat in a dream, but there's no actual light or noise or heat source out there. The brain's making it all up.
Right.
And thinkers like Bertrand Russell even suggested we should give dreams and waking experiences equal respect, at least in terms of the raw sensory data. The colors are just as colorful, the sounds just as loud.
So the feeling of the experience is equally valid.
In terms of the raw sensory quality, yes. The big difference is how we interpret them, the context, whether they connect coherently with everything else we know.
And the phenomenologists, they focus on the subjective experience, right?
Exactly. They emphasize that feeling of being there, of presence. When you're dreaming, you feel immersed in that dream world, just like you feel immersed in this world right now.
Which throws up those big questions again.
Yeah.
About reality, about the self.
Definitely. Like, if you live a whole dream segment as someone else feeling their feelings, thinking their thoughts, was that person you? Even for a moment, philosophers like Locke and Hume said memory is key to personal identity. You are you because you remember being you yesterday.
Makes sense.
But dream memories, poof, they often vanish when we wake up. So you have this memory of having lived as someone else, but you can't access their memories anymore. It's like a lost life.
So does that dream character, the one you inhabited, become a separate conscious thing for a bit?
That's a radical thought. And if dreams can generate these convincing other selves, does it make you question how unified our waking self is?
Like maybe the feeling of being one consistent me all the time is simpler than the reality. An illusion, almost.
It echoes those psychological ideas of subselves again, doesn't it? That maybe the mind is more like a committee than a single CEO. Dreams might just make that fragmentation more obvious.
So many challenging questions here. How do we draw a clean philosophical line between dream and reality?
It's tough. If a dream feels more intense, more meaningful even than your average Tuesday, what makes Tuesday objectively more real?
Yeah. Is it just continuity, coherence with other experiences?
Maybe. And does consciousness need a body or an external world? Dreams suggest maybe not, or at least the brain can simulate it incredibly well on its own.
Creating these self-contained universes while we sleep.
An identity. If you can be a completely different character in a dream, what does that say about the core of who you are? Is identity that fluid?
Wow. Okay. Deep stuff. So let's pivot one last time. What about spiritual or metaphysical views? They must take dreams really seriously.
Oh, hugely. For many traditions, dreams aren't just psychological noise or philosophical puzzles. They're seen as genuine pathways.
Pathways to where?
To deeper reality, maybe, higher consciousness, spiritual insight. Take Tibetan Buddhism's dream yoga.
Dream yoga.
Yeah, it's a whole practice. First, learn to recognize your dreaming, basically. Cultivate lucidity.
Okay.
But then you use that lucid state. You work with the dream images.
Yeah.
Confront fears, transform negative emotions, understand how flimsy our attachments are.
So you're using the dream as a spiritual training ground.
Exactly. The ultimate goal is to realize the dreamlike nature of the dream, and then by extension, realize the dreamlike illusory nature of waking life too. To wake up in the biggest sense.
That's profound. Using the dream to understand reality.
Very. And then you have the Aboriginal concept of the dream time or the dreaming.
Right. You mentioned that earlier. It's not just nighttime dream.
No, it's much bigger. It's like an eternal, ongoing spiritual dimension.
Yeah.
The time when ancestral spirit beings created the world, the landscape, the law, everything.
And it's still present.
Yes, it's in everyone. Those ancestors, their stories, their power are still active, still connected to the land, to people, to ceremonies.
So dreams for Aboriginal people are?
They're a vital way of connecting to the dreaming. They're not seen as unreal or just dreams. They're a genuine mode of knowing, a way to receive guidance, maintain connection to ancestors, history, community, the land itself. The land is the dreaming in a way.
That's a completely different valuation of dreams compared to, say, the purely scientific view.
Fundamentally different. And you see similar ideas in shamanic traditions all over the world.
Shamans using dreams.
Or dreamlike states, altered consciousness. They often undertake intentional journeys into spirit worlds, sometimes through dreaming, to get guidance, find cures for illness, retrieve lost knowledge, or soul parts.
So, interacting with spirits or guides in dreams.
Yes, connecting with animal spirits, ancestral guides. Dreams can be diagnostic tools, sources of prophecy. Some traditions even talk about dream walking.
Dream walking, like consciously traveling in the dream realm.
That's the idea. Consciously navigating these other realities to learn things or even influence events, potentially in both the dream world and the waking world. Siberian traditions, Amazonian ones, they often have practices like this.
It really frames dreams as a link to other dimensions, doesn't it?
It does, and that idea carries through into some contemporary mystical thinking, too.
Okay.
People suggesting dreams let us touch parallel realities, maybe. Higher dimensions.
Is that linked to things like quantum physics?
Sometimes speculatively, yeah. People might draw inspiration from, say, the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, the idea that every possibility plays out in a separate universe, and wonder if dreams are windows into those other realities.
Where other versions of us were living different lives.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And you also have New Age ideas like astral projection, seeing vivid out-of-body experiences during sleep as the soul or consciousness literally traveling outside the physical body.
Which obviously takes us way beyond mainstream science or philosophy.
Way beyond.
Mm-hmm.
But these perspectives raise really fascinating, if highly speculative, questions, don't they?
Like what?
Well, from this viewpoint, are dreams a kind of soul journey? If traditions believe dreams transmit real wisdom, real spiritual insight, should we take certain dreams more seriously than just psychology?
Beyond just symbols of our own minds.
Right. Do recurring symbols in dreams across cultures point to some kind of shared dream world, a collective unconscious, like Jung suggested? And, you know, the really big one, if consciousness could somehow touch other dimensions while dreaming, what would that even mean for physics? For identity? It challenges everything.
It really does. Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it's just amazing how many different lenses there are for looking at dreams.
It truly is. Science gives us the brain mechanics. Psychology shows the links to our daily lives. Philosophy makes us question reality and who we are. And spirituality opens doors to other worlds or deeper meanings. They converge and diverge in fascinating ways.
So back to that big question we posed near the start. Do dreams count as alternate lives?
Well, biologically, you could say no. They're temporary internal simulations, virtual reality generated by the brain using memory, emotion, imagination.
Right. Limited runtime based on existing data.
But subjectively, for the person in the dream.
It feels absolutely real while it's happening. Like you are living it. You are in that other reality, however brief it is.
Exactly. And that's the tension, isn't it? That lived experience. Is it less valid, less real somehow? Just because it happened while your body was asleep and it didn't connect neatly to waking life afterwards?
That's the question to sit with, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What really makes something real? Is it just being awake? Dreams really force you to examine that line.
Maybe the most complete picture comes from weaving these threads together. The science, the philosophy, the personal meaning we find in them.
Yeah, perhaps. It's not just one answer.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And maybe a final thought to leave people with. Considering how incredibly vivid dreams can be, how emotionally powerful,
Yeah.
what if that inner world, the richness of our dream life, is actually just as important, just as significant to our total experience of being human as the life we live when we're awake?